On the 21st of September, I'm running Why You Cheated and How to Trust Yourself Again. It's a live online 3-day experience specifically for women healing after their own affairs. We'll look at what sat beneath your affair, begin releasing the shame you have been carrying, and start rebuilding the trust in yourself. It's £37 plus VAT, and we begin at 5 p.m. BST on Monday, the 21st of September. You can find the link in the show notes. Welcome to the Deeper Love podcast. This week, I'm sharing with you one of our private sanctuary episodes where I'm answering a member's question on why sex with my affair partner got me out of my head and what it's actually telling you. And if you want to listen to the full catalogue, then come and join us in the sanctuary. You can find the link in the show notes below. Affairs don't begin in the bedroom. They begin in childhood. In the part of you that decided she needed to bury her truth just to be loved. The part that's now screaming to be seen. I'm Alex Croxford, and this is the Deeper Love podcast, where we name the shame, face the guilt, and help you find your way back to yourself. So let's begin. So I want to answer a question this week about why having sex with your affair partner meant that you could get out of your head, but struggle to do so with your husband. First of all, I want to celebrate you for asking this question because it is a brave question to ask. And I do know that many other women listening to this will be exhaling with relief that somebody else said it. Because really and truly, this is one of the most common experiences that I see in women who have had affairs, and almost no one talks about it. Because many, many women feel that they are in almost platonic relationships with their husbands or their primary partners. And when they have the affair, it's almost as though they have had a sexual awakening in some way. And this can be incredibly confusing and scary. And also, once that's happened, it feels very hard to go back. So this episode, we're really going to go there. And I want to make it clear before we get into it that I'm going to be talking about sex. I'm going to be talking about pleasure. I'm going to be talking about self-pleasure. I'm going to be talking about the body. I mean, we are going there. So if that doesn't feel good for you, then I would skip this episode. But if you are intrigued, I am really going to visit this topic this week. So first off, I want to say that what you experienced in the sexual relationship with your affair partner was real. Like, you felt that presence, you felt that aliveness, you felt that being in your bodiness, and that really happened. You didn't make that up. But the thing that I want to be really clear about, and something that may or may not make sense based on how much of my podcast you've listened to or how many teachings you've listened to here, it's not actually about him. One of my teachers is a wonderful tantrika named Layla Martin, and she talks a lot about how novelty and danger can feel alive. It makes you feel alive. And the nervous system, it lights up when we are in charged or illicit situations. And we mistake this, because no one tells us otherwise, for some deep, profound, soul-aligned connection, or perhaps even love. But actually what this is biology. And when the stakes are high, when there is secrecy, there is also intensity. And when something feels forbidden and we are having to create an entirely secret life in order for something to happen, the nervous system floods with aliveness. And that drops us out of our heads and into our bodies because it has to. Our body takes over in these moments. And that is why affairs feel so intoxicatingly present. It's not that he or she was the right person. I know that it might feel like that, but it's actually that the situation forced your nervous system into a state that you rarely inhabit in day-to-day life. So the question underneath the question is really, why is danger the only thing that gets me into my body? And the answer to that is everything. So if the only time that you've ever really felt fully in your body is when everything is at risk, then that tells us something about how you're living day to day. Because many women in my world definitely would recognize themselves as the good girl, the high achiever, the perfectionist, the one that doesn't need anyone, the strong one. And the thing about the good girl that doesn't need anyone is she doesn't get to have a body. She doesn't get to live in her body. She's always in her head. Because in order to be good, in order to be strong, in order to be successful, in order to achieve, you have to stay in your head. You have to perform. You have to manage everything and everyone. And you have to hold everything together. And when you're holding everything together, there is a certain tight energy to that keeps the body out of receptivity and pleasure and joy and bliss and in survival, in pushing forward and driving forward and doing and doing and doing. And desire and pleasure and wants and needs and aliveness for the good girl and the perfectionist, that gets pushed down or shut down pretty early on in life because it was inconvenient to have needs or wants. There was no space for that. You had to look a certain way, be a certain way, perform a certain way, be seen and not heard, do everything right, look after everybody else's emotions, and your emotions, your needs, your wants, your pleasure, your joy was too much. So therefore, you learn to suppress it, push it down, deny it, doesn't exist. And sometimes this can happen if we have early experiences where we have had a parent, either consciously or unconsciously, shame us for our own sexual energy. So I'll give you an example from my life. When I was about 6, I had an experience with my then boyfriend, who was the same age as me, nothing to be concerned about. And he and I were playing I'll show you mine if I show you yours, whatever that is. You show me mine and I'll show me you know what I mean. And my sister, who was 2 years younger than me, was also there, and she ran and told my mum that this had happened. Very innocently told my mum. And my mum immediately, she'd had her own experiences in her life, which meant that she freaked out in hearing this. And I remember her shutting the bathroom door and questioning me, and I could feel her worry and I could feel her concern. And I was felt so much shame in that moment because it was such an innocent exploration of my sexual energy. Our sexual energy comes online as a girl about 6 or 7. And it was such an innocent exploration of that. But in that moment, my nervous system and my subconscious made the decision, well, that's not safe. It's not safe. That part of me has to get pushed down. I have to suppress that. And you may or may not remember a situation. Don't worry about it if you can't. You may not have had a situation, but this might be ringing some bells. Perhaps there was a moment where you were ashamed for kissing a boy, or there was something else that you were doing that somebody commented on that made you realize or think that, you know, your body was wrong or your genitals were wrong in some way. And so when we suppress so much of our own aliveness, which is really our creative sexual energy that we have, it will eventually and can eventually bubble up and break through sideways through something illicit or something that bypassed the part of us that monitors and controls and stays appropriate and stays neat and stays the good Christian girl or whatever it is that we needed to be in order to survive. And the affair partner or the affair suddenly gives us something new. And it wasn't that he gave you something that you didn't have before. They gave you a doorway or a portal. This is why the affair is the portal into something that you already had, but you'd been cut off from. That aliveness that you felt with your affair partner, it wasn't him, it was you. And it was a version of you that has been locked up for a very long time. In my own experience, it was only really after my marriage ended that I realized how much I had been in my head the whole time during sex. I was definitely carrying a lot of shame. If we explored something beyond your standard sex, I would definitely the next day feel a lot of shame about it. I was definitely not present. I was in my head a lot, thinking about him, thinking about what we were doing, thinking about what my body looked like, thinking about the noises that my body was making, and, almost rushing myself, trying to get to orgasm, but never really allowing myself to soften enough to actually receive pleasure. It always felt like I was pushing towards something. And I didn't even know what it felt like, which is so funny when I look back, really, because of where I am now. But back then, I didn't know what it would feel like to actually be in my body during sex. I had no idea that I wasn't in my body during sex. I thought I enjoyed sex. I thought, although the sex life in my marriage had definitely gone down the pan in the last 2 years, I still considered somebody who enjoyed sex. And what I know now from all of the work that I have done around pleasure and sex and true intimacy is that genuine pleasure requires genuine surrender. And it is impossible to surrender if there is a part of you that never felt safe enough to let go. I was the one that was always in control of everything. I couldn't let go. I couldn't let go ever. So it was unsurprising I was going to be able to let go in bed. And for me, it wasn't my affair partner that actually awakened this for me. In fact, I'll tell you now, I didn't have full sex with the guy that I cheated with. I very much wasn't interested in that. It was, I wanted to receive pleasure from him and from him only. And it was a very bizarre arrangement. But and it wasn't even, if I'm honest with you, it wasn't even that good. But I know that this, for me, my experience of, and of course it wasn't that good because I still wasn't, for me, I still wasn't able to get out of my head and into my body. But for me, the journey came on my own, because after the marriage ended, I realized I didn't know how to make myself orgasm without a vibrator. I hadn't done that for years. And I was always in a rush. I was always in a rush to reach orgasm. I had never just slowed down and given myself any kind of sensual touch. And I remember I did this course. It was only a 4-week course. And this was back in 2022, I think, or maybe even the end of 2021, after my marriage had ended. And I remember doing this course online in my apartment that I'd moved into. And it was all about like slowing down enough to touch, I mean, we literally started by like stroking my body, my arms, like we were slowing it right down, exploring what kind of sensual touch I enjoyed. Did I like it firm? Did I like it light? And as I said, we didn't actually touch our own genitals for a really long time. This was very much just, how can I experience pleasure in my body slowly without rushing to reach orgasm, and actually noticing what I felt in every single one of those moments rather than focusing on an end goal. And it wasn't easy or comfortable to begin with, because it was not comfortable for me to go slowly. It wasn't comfortable for me to even receive pleasure from myself. And it was quite eye-opening that I even struggled to do that. And the truth is that it is strange to focus on your own pleasure or receiving pleasure from yourself without it being for somebody else's benefit, or without there being some kind of, tit for tat exchange. But that experience for me of learning to be with my own pleasure was the thing that began to change everything. I knew there was this part of me that knew I had to learn how to receive from myself. What did I even like? How did I like to be touched? How could I reach orgasm without a vibrator? How did I feel pleasure in my body? And I couldn't expect my future partner to be able to do that for me if I didn't know it myself. And I then went on to study for a whole year with Layla Martin and did the deepest exploration into the nervous system and our pleasure and our experience of pleasure in the body, and what blocks it and what stands in the way, and what we need to do to open it, and how we can lean into our aliveness without all the secrecy and the intensity and the danger. And now my experience of sex, girls, I am going to tell you now, it is off the scale. And I'm so much more aware of whether I'm in my head or in my body. And sometimes I still do shoot into my head. I'm human. I'm a woman. Different cycles, different parts of the month, I'm going to feel different ways. And I'm not over here lavishing in like multiple orgasms every hour of every day. But the pleasure that I am able to experience in my body now is next level compared to what I did before. I could sit here and say, oh, it's all Adam. And he is great in bed, don't get me wrong. But this is actually about what I am able to receive in my body. If Adam had been meeting me 6 years ago, it wouldn't matter what he was doing, because I wouldn't be able to experience that in my own body, because I would so stuck in my head. So the difference, I think one of the parts of the question that you were asking as well, and was being in your body during sex with your affair partner the same as doing somatic work? And the short answer is no, because what happened with your affair partner was involuntary embodiment. So the nervous system was forced into the body by circumstance, by the danger and the novelty and the aliveness of that moment, and actually bypassed all your defenses. So somatic work is voluntary embodiment. So learning to drop into the body by choice when you are in safety, without needing to have the adrenaline or the danger to get there. So one is dependent on external conditions, i.e. the affair or some other experience of danger that we might find ourselves in that gets us really turned on. The other becomes yours, where you get to build the capacity to be present in your body without needing chaos to force you into it. And so we don't need to recreate the conditions that the affair partner opened up. This is now a journey, and it takes time. There will be a section on the portal to help you start to tap into pleasure. It's not a whole course, but there will be some bits for you to start to actually understand how to receive pleasure in your own body. And honestly, it's that and the somatic work. That is the ways that we really do start to be able to appreciate being in our body and receiving pleasure, and then doing the work to meet all of the parts, all of the protector parts inside of ourselves, which we do more in the healed heart, and then onto the deeper love program, which comes after the healed heart, where we get to start to really feel what it would be like to live a life of aliveness and pleasure and joy and bliss without having to bring in the risk. And it's absolutely something that can happen for every single one of you. It starts with you, and it starts slowly. And you've got to begin by starting to be fully present with yourself in so many ways. Present with how you're feeling emotionally, present with how much you're pushing against yourself, present with what you're enjoying, what you're not enjoying, present with what you're needing. And every single one of those things comes from the body, not the mind. And that's why all the somatic practices exist in the sanctuary, because they are literally a practice in returning to the body, which is where all of this lies. And pleasure and sensation and noticing what's happening in the body, they're skills. And they are hidden away and they're suppressed because they weren't safe at one point, and they can come back. And the aliveness that you felt was not tied to your affair partner, and it's not gone. It still belongs to you. It belongs to every single one of you that felt it. And now this is just a journey to return to it, because you've spent years performing as the good girl and the one that doesn't need anyone, the one that's trying to be perfect. And now it's time to learn how to just be here now in your body as you. So thank you for bringing this into the group. I'm sure some of you are sitting there shocked. But girls, I'm ready to go there. So you open the door, we're going in. And I look forward to seeing you at the next session. Thank you for listening to the Deeper Love podcast. If today's episode spoke to you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find all the ways to work with me in the show notes. Until next time.